Hi, Leah. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Venture Love podcast. So excited to have you.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to do this today.
Of course. So, for our listeners, you're going to want to check Leah out. Leah is a pelvic health expert, movement specialist, and integrative nutrition coach. And she helps women who are feeling unheard, stressed out, and hopeless by empowering them to take back control. And she does this through her signature relief method, which sounds super cool. So, prior to working with women on pelvic function, she spent 8 years in the fitness industry while pursuing her education in fitness and health promotion and kinesiology. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. She has worked with hundreds of athletes, children, older populations, and perinatal women. And she attributes her personal IBS story as to what got her hooked on her pelvic health. And she stated that she was feeling pregnant and had all the aches and pains that went with that. And I definitely know how that feels. It's not fun. And knew that there was no way to live. So she found her way to integrative health, to ensure she improved her health. It's a combination of her own health journey, her interest in the mind-body connection, and her passion for people that gives her a unique understanding for the inner workings of women's health. And today, Leah is on a mission to help women like you release the anxiety, pain, and frustration that surrounds integrative health, because she knows firsthand how lonely it can feel to walk this road, and she wants you to know that you are not alone. So, Leah, I know during my pregnancy, my doula had recommended a health professional, coach, expert, and it was just so helpful for me. And I actually didn't really know much about it prior to pregnancy. I'd kind of heard a little bit here and there, and I wasn't really sure. I thought maybe it was like for the elderly community. I just had no idea what to expect. But I had my sessions with the person that I worked with, and it was super
Yeah.
helpful. So can you explain for those of you listening today exactly what a pelvic floor therapist or coach does?
Yeah. So just to preface, I think it's very few people actually know what pelvic health is or what a pelvic health coach, expert, therapist does. The profession itself was really only beginnings getting studied in the 80s.
Mhm.
And just up until now, I think most people kind of associate it with actually pregnancy itself and
Mhm.
don't realize how it affects so many other people. So I'm glad that we're able to talk about this today and kind of give everyone a broad overview of what pelvic health actually looks like and what a therapist will actually help you do. So we can kind of spread that word and just make it a much more well-known profession.
Mhm.
So just to kind of give you an overview, pelvic health really makes sure that you have proper functioning bowels, reproductive system, and bladder control. Um, and your pelvic floor muscles help you protect all of those different organs, help protect your um, like your pelvic structure, like the bone structure of your hips, helps with like low back pain. And so, if you are someone who has struggled with digestion, have gone through pregnancy, have gone through like major abdominal surgeries, even like things like cancer, your pelvic health therapist is going to help rehab those muscles to help you gain control over all of those functions that are associated with those muscles so that you're not having all of these long-term issues.
I love that. It's such a necessary and needed
Yeah.
therapy in the world of I'm thinking motherhood, but honestly, it's for everybody. It's for men too. I've heard it's
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everybody.
absolutely. Everybody, literally everyone has a pelvic floor.
Mhm.
And there's so many different reasons for dysfunction. And I kind of already listed a few,
Mhm.
but I think a lot of people up until very recently thought that the symptoms that come with pelvic floor dysfunction, a lot of people were told like that's normal, it's just part of being a mom, it's just part of these things, deal with it, get over it. Or people are embarrassed and they don't seek help with it, or they're kind of brushed off, or whatever that is. And so, kind of like you said, like it literally is for everybody.
Mhm.
And long term, like you're going to feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can attest to that. It's definitely true. Even having my session before birth and just kind of anticipating, you never really know what you're going to go through
No.
when you give birth, and it can go any which way, no matter how much you plan. And trust me, I planned every little thing as much as I could.
Yeah.
It never goes 100% according to plan, but having an expert professional who knows this stuff like you do, you work with all these individuals that are going through having these concerns and issues and worries. And like you said, a lot of them don't voice them. And I've talked to tons of women, tons of mamas that they're telling me like, oh gosh, I'm leaking. Are you leaking? Like, is that, and it's so embarrassing. And it kind of is. No one wants to talk about that kind of stuff.
It's such a private matter. And I think too, I think there was a study saying that women don't, I think it takes them up to 6 years before they build the confidence to go talk to their doctor about it.
Oh,
And
God.
so imagine suffering, like it affects your social life, it affects your work life, it affects your home life, it affects dating, it affects all these different aspects of your life. And to suffer with it for 6 years is way too long.
No way.
And then I think even after that, I think it said only 20% of people actually pursue fixing the problem itself.
That's so unfortunate. It's so
Yeah.
unfortunate.
And it's something that in a lot of cases can be fixed. And so it just sucks watching so many women or so many people in general struggle with all of these symptoms related to pelvic health, and knowing that you can get help and it doesn't take that long either.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Or what happens if you don't go on? Is it similar to what you said, where 6, 7, 8, 10 years will pass by and you're still leaking? You're still having, like, I've heard, painful sex. You're still having tension or like loose, I don't know, like what are the things that from your expertise that happen if you don't seek professional care?
It's really what just you said, like you are just going to continue having these issues, but if you're not even attempting to like maintain your current health, it's going to deteriorate even more. Those muscles are going to get weaker, they're going to get tighter, or if you're dealing with muscles that are stuck in this like lengthened position and really weak that way, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And so it's not something that you want to leave long term. And you wouldn't, if you had a muscular injury in any other muscle in your body, you wouldn't leave it. You would be seeking out your doctor. You would be seeking out a therapist. You'd be going to a chiropractor, massage, whatever it is. So I think I think a lot of people don't realize that your pelvic floor is muscles, but you should treat it the same way that you would any other injury.
That's so true. I never thought of it that way, but like, we don't see people walking around or trying to walk on a broken leg or
no.
go like, hello, you get that fixed. So that makes perfect sense. And I love that you said that, because I feel like a lot of what I'm sharing now is like shifting. Obviously, it's still supporting women, but it's shifting more into like motherhood and supporting people that are pregnant, people that are wanting to have their babies and give birth. And definitely, this is so helpful. I mean, it's scary for me. I'm 4 months. My baby will be 4 months in, what day is it? 2 days. And so I'm thinking like, how am I doing? Like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. And I've been doing my exercises and things like that here, but I'm the 20% of that group that you mentioned. I'm on board. Give me the help, give me the support. I don't know how to do this. Teach me how. But I know not everybody's like that. So and that's okay, because like you said, sometimes this is seen as like and I know for some cultures it can be kind of like a shameful or cultural thing, like you don't talk to people about this, like you keep it in the home and you talk to your mom and your grandma. But what if you're not close to the women in your family and you don't know what to do? You don't know what's normal and what's not normal. So for either a pregnant mom to be or birthing person to be, or you just had your baby and now what, and you're feeling all these things, what's like the first step to seeking support from someone like you? Like, what would someone do, or how would they reach out, and how would you work with someone like that that's maybe saying like, hey, I'm having discomfort, I'm having pain, like, whoa, what does that look like?
I think just from my perspective, anyone that's coming to me, I want to know like what they're actually comfortable with and how can I make them more comfortable. I personally don't do internal work, and especially because I work virtually.
Mhm.
Um, but there are therapists that do internal work, and so I think it's important that you understand that that could be a factor, but you can also say no. Like if you don't want someone doing any kind of internal examinations with you, especially like I think women, we're poked and prodded at a
Yeah.
lot,
Yeah.
especially through pregnancy. So we might be a little bit more willing. But for guys, like that's not a normal thing. And so for anyone, like find a therapist that you actually trust and that listens to you and understands you and respects you. And then B, understand that they're like the internal exams can be very, very helpful. But if you're not comfortable, like make sure you're voicing that, stick up for yourself, advocate for yourself, and just there are other ways that you can go about it. Like I said, like I work virtually. So if you're more comfortable with that, great. If you do want or are comfortable with getting the internal exams, do that. The only other barrier really is because it's such a new profession, there's not a lot of us able to do it.
Mhm.
There is a bit of a price factor in there as well. And so if you can't seek your own therapist, I actually have a quiz available to kind of give, like, point you in the right direction. Um, and there's tons of other quizzes online as well. But then from there, you can actually find videos to give you like first steps as well. And then from there, like if you still feel like you aren't doing it properly, then that might be the point to seek out a therapist. But know that there are so many resources, like free resources available online, that if you are the type of person where you're just not comfortable or you're not ready to talk about it with other people, you can find resources like on YouTube. There's courses available. Um, or even if you wanted more of a virtual experience, then you have those options as well.
I love that you mentioned that because not everyone can afford these things, and some,
No.
moms and or women or birthing people is the new term I'm trying to use as frequently as possible because that's our community. um some of us can't afford it, and
Yeah.
it's hard, and they think like, oh gosh, this is a luxury. But when it comes to your care and your health, and I know living in America, I know you're in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Living in America is a little different, but some things are very expensive and you've got to pay out of pocket. And if you don't have health insurance, it's awful. But I'm so happy you mentioned that there are free resources and
Hmm.
there are things. So absolutely check out her quiz and everything you have to offer. And I wanted to maybe, and I know you probably will have already covered this in those videos and quizzes, but can you maybe share one or just a few little tips on someone who might be experiencing pain and discomfort and what they can do, maybe starting today if they're listening to this and they're thinking like, okay, the first step I take today would be like, what would that be from your perspective?
Definitely focus on breathing. Most of us, if not all of us, breathe improperly. A lot of us tend to breathe into our chest or into our backs, even, especially like because we're on our phones all the time, at our desk, typing, video editing, whatever it is. And because of that change in the way that we breathe, it is going to impact your pelvic floor. And so for all of my clients, it's the first thing that I focus on. So even if you like that price point is a barrier, or you just want to get started today, but you don't have an appointment for 3 months kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
start looking up diaphragmatic breathing, 360 breathing, core canister breathing. Like there's a bunch of names for it, but that would be the first place that I would look, because then you're learning how to actually relax and contract your pelvic floor with your breath. So, if anything, that would be the first line of defense for me.
Okay, perfect. And I think it's something that's, I mean, I do meditations and all kinds of breath work as well. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's one thing that people kind of like, oh, I'm breathing fine. But you'll find, I'm sure you realize so many people don't take the full breaths that they're meant to take each and every day, or they're not doing it to their full potential. So that's
Yeah.
super important that you mentioned that. So thanks for sharing that. And
You're
then for
welcome.
anyone that's super interested in working with you, wanting to book a session with you and learn more, and to learn more about what you offer, how can they find you?
Yeah. So my website is just leighaverbeem.com. I'm on Instagram, just leah.verbeem. And then I'm actually planning on starting a YouTube channel where I can explain some of these concepts like over video, which will be a lot of fun. And I'm starting posting videos October 2022. So
That's
in
exciting.
just a few weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
that's like around the corner.
yeah. So whenever people are listening to this, I guess, they'll hopefully be up very soon. So
Awesome.
things like teaching like the diaphragmatic breathing, that will be on my channel. So definitely look out for that. And make sure that you're subscribing to my channel or my email list so that you're actually getting those updates of when those videos will be available to you.
Awesome. That's super exciting. Congrats on that.
Yeah,
I know it's a
thank
big
you.
deal starting a new venture and
Yeah.
yeah. And then
It's
go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say I'm just really excited because it's something that has been on my mind for years and years and years, and I haven't done it, but I want to make health accessible for people. And I just continuously go back to it. And I'm like, okay, I am doing this.
It's a sign then, your
Yeah.
intuition's telling you got to do it, Leigha. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Thanks.
exciting. And I feel like like you said, you'll be able to reach so many more people that way and help so many more people. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then speaking of ventures, so the way that I'm starting to wrap up these podcasts is by asking a question. So I'm going to ask the question and then you can share whatever comes to you. And I'm going to say, obviously, super grateful that you spent this time with us and sharing your knowledge and your expertise. And I hope as many women that are needing support come to you for these services because they're super vital. But one final question I love to start ending my interviews with is, what does it mean to venture love, health, and happiness?
I think to me, it's kind of like the way that I got into holistic health was because I had to figure out what worked for me. And that's how I approach it with all of my clients. And so this idea of it being a venture is really like, it's your own personal journey. It's personalizing a diet to you, personalizing exercise to you. Everyone has all of these different barriers in their life. And it doesn't mean that you can't have health, happiness, love, any of these things. Like they're the kind of the goal for most people, I think. And so making sure that it works for you and not against you. I remember growing up, and you would see like all these fitness influencers having like a 6-hour morning routine and a 6-hour bedtime routine to have like beautiful skin and beautiful hair and being healthy and eating all the things, right? And that didn't work for me. And I had to find my own venture, like you said, to figure out what worked for me. And now I do that with my own clients. And so I think really to me, like having that venture that's my own personal
I love that
experience with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super important. Yeah, having your own individualized plan for yourself, because we're all so different and we all come from different places and different upbringings and all kinds of situations. So thank you so much for sharing that and being with us today. And I'm so excited
Thank you so much
for my community to get to know you and to get all the support and love from you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me today.
Of course, you're welcome.